So what's happening to our nation? And does the Bill of Rights mean anything anymore? Wisconsin, the Supreme Court yesterday just said all of these health things are unenforceable and go against the Constitution and lead us to tyranny. Well, there is a Port of Seattle police officer. His name is Greg Anderson. I saw a video that he did that was on YouTube. It went viral, and he's very calm, rational. He's not accusing anybody. He's just saying, hey, I'm seeing these reports from all over the country where people are being arrested for, given haircuts. And I just urge police officers to know that this isn't, that's unconstitutional, and we have to abide by the Constitution. He was very reasoned, and I didn't think it said anything wrong at all. Well, he had permission from his higher-ups to make the video, and everything was fine until it went viral, and then somebody got pissed off about it. And now he may be terminated for it. He's been put on leave, and they're deciding what to do about it. Greg Anderson, who has rejected a lot of interviews, has graciously accepted this interview and is speaking out about it. Hi, Greg. How are you?
Morning, Glenn. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thank you for, just at the time, I don't think there's any common sense left in the Pacific Northwest, and I see your video. So thank you for that. First of all, did you have permission, and was everybody cool for you to speak on your own to do this video?
No, and that was the first point that I was going to clarify, listening to your introduction. I wouldn't say that I had permission from the department to do the video. I did the video 100% on my own accord for reasons that we'll get into. But I initially didn't get any pushback from the department. That's what I brought up the following day.
Okay. So when you say you did it for reasons of your own, what were those reasons?
Well, I can tell you being a military vet and now being in law enforcement, I have friends in law enforcement all over the country. And speaking to everybody that is in my profession, I can assure you that 99.9% of officers feel the exact same way I do. All the stuff we're seeing going on, nobody can believe it. And everybody I talk to says, I would never arrest someone for going into a park. And I would never arrest a surfer. And I would never arrest a lady for cutting somebody's hair. This is asinine. Mm-hmm. Yet we keep seeing it every single day, more and more. And it really started to bother me for several reasons. I mean, the first and foremost reason is we're trampling on people's constitutional rights. And we don't have the authority to do those things to people, regardless of what elected officials say. And the other aspect of this that's really troubling to me is maintaining a good relationship with the public is something that's been a struggle for law enforcement for a long time. And in a short amount of time, I saw that relationship greatly strained. And the gap, the trust between law enforcement and the public, that gap is growing exponentially. And I felt like I needed to say something in an attempt to slow that down. And I think the proof is in the pudding. It resonated with so many people.
So you say that you don't want to do this, and most of the officers don't want to do this, but do they end up doing it anyway?
I feel, and like I said in my video, I haven't seen it firsthand at my department. The Port of Seattle has been a really good department when it comes to any type of enforcement. But I believe in my heart that officers don't want to be doing these things, but they're put in a place where their higher up asks them to. And now they're stuck between, am I going to be looking at disciplinary actions or losing my job where I lose my livelihood and the ability to feed my family? Or do I have to just, kind of bend the rules a little bit this one time? And I feel like a lot of officers are getting stuck in that place. And a lot of people don't have the courage to just draw the line in the sand and say, no, I have an oath to the citizens of this country, and I'm not going to do that.
I can't believe, Greg, that we're actually talking about this. This is something that I've war gamed in my head a million times in the last 20 years on whether or not, we'd have to rely on the sheriffs or the police would turn and it's always been a crazy thought. And thank God it's not to the level of why I was thinking about these things. But this is really an important thing. And doesn't it seem crazy that we're here?
Well, yeah, it's unbelievable. And, and I touched on that on my video, is that our power is nothing more than a perception. We have a little piece of tin on our chest that reflects authority. But once the American people have enough, it's a numbers game. It could be stripped from us in 1 minute. And that's a really scary thought, of having citizen against officer on the streets. And I know some people think that that's just, like a conspiracy theory, or that's you're thinking out of left field. But I can tell you, as someone that's been deployed to a lot of third world countries that are torn apart by war, when people get in places where they out of desperation, they start to do really nasty things to each other. And if people think that that's an impossibility in America, I don't think they're grounded in reality.
So what was your message? Because now you have 2 mortgages, you have kids, you can't afford to lose your job. That sends a message to a lot of people, well, I'm not going to do that.
Well, the reason that I'm taking such a hard stance on that is because in the video, I implored officers to stand up for what's right, regardless of what it costs you. Regardless of what it costs you. You have to put right over your own personal comfort. And I think the reason that I'm trying to push that message out there is because if every officer stood up for what they believed, it'd be a non-issue. And the people in these political positions that are using us like they're foot soldiers, they would lose all the power. And so that is why I think it's important to tell people, no matter what is on the line, you stand up for what's right, and you stand up for the Constitution. And that's why I had to take such a hard line on this when my department said, hey, it's time to pull the video down. It's getting too big. I said, my whole message is about standing behind what you believe. I can't put a message out to millions of people telling them to hold strong on their convictions. And then as soon as I get a little pushback, rescind my words and say, yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
So would you do it again?
Absolutely. Regardless of whether it cost me my job or not, the amount of feedback I've got across the country from both officers and citizens about how it just opened their eyes, it started conversations, it made people look inward. I got an email, and we're literally getting thousands and thousands of emails. I can't even begin to keep up on them. But I got one yesterday that I did read, and it was from a guy who works for NYPD. And he said, Greg, I want to let you know, every officer in our department has watched your video. It made a lot of people do some self-reflection, and I can assure you that your 8-minute video changed the culture in NYPD. And that is the most, it's unbelievable to think that me sharing my ideas for 8 minutes has been able to reach people across the country. But when I'm getting all this feedback from people, I have to believe that I did the right thing.
Well, I think you did, and I appreciate it, Greg. I think that you were very, very brave, and there was nothing that you said that our founders wouldn't have approved of, and it is incumbent about all of us. You said something, I can't remember what it was, but you made me think of the Germans back in World War II that said, I'm just following orders. And you said, we don't have that here. We don't.
Yep.
We that's not what we do. Do you remember what you said?
Well, no, yeah, because I have a friend who was in the Ranger Regiment with me. He's a special operations veteran, and he's been stopped 2 times asking for papers proving he's essential. And I said that's the Gestapo, straight out of Nazi Germany. You don't get to stop people and see what they're doing or what their credentials are. As a law enforcement officer, I can stop someone if I observe them committing a crime. It's really simple. You don't get to just randomly target people or go after certain groups because we're told to do that. I think that's a slippery slope. Today, this is essential, but what might a governor order tomorrow? That's why laws have to go through a long legislative process to become law. And it's not just on a whim of one person, because before you know it, that becomes tyranny.